Hello, and thanks for joining me here at Clear Into Balance. My name is Jamie. Today I want to dive deeper into the topic I just posted about recently, which is beliefs that we have and how they can negatively impact our lives. But I want to go further than that and share a few real life examples of beliefs I became consciously aware of and was able to shift outside of a holographic kinetics session. So just being aware and changing the way I was viewing things changed my physical health for the better. So just a little bit of my background. In my late 20s, I had had my son. 6 months later, I found myself ill. After that, I ended up getting really sick, passing out at home. I went to the hospital by ambulance and found out I had had a huge fluid effusion around my heart and the outer lining of my heart, my pericardium was inflamed and it was causing pericarditis. So I had this emergency surgery to relieve that fluid and to take a biopsy of the pericardium to see what exactly was causing this issue. Fast forward, I didn't get any answers really as to what caused it until many years later, going to all these different specialists. Nobody had answers for me. In this physical reality, they pinpointed the cause to Lyme disease and other tick-borne infections, which made sense because I had been a wildlife fisheries biologist. I'd been living outside for many, many years, hiking, camping, backpacking for my work and for fun. So it made sense. But the tests for that are all really terrible. You don't often get a diagnosis. People suffer chronic illness for years and years without having any real answers to their issue. Doctors just threw prednisone at it, which is a steroid to reduce the inflammation, which that's one of the biggest problems with the way Western medicine is set up, is that we're treating symptoms without knowing the root cause. And if your root cause is something like bacteria, and then you're throwing steroids at it to basically, all my doctors were like, oh, your immune system is overreacting. So we're going to give you this steroid, which basically weakens your immune system so that your body stops responding to some invisible cause, okay? And then the inflammation can go away. The problem with that, you probably already hear it, and the way I just explained that is what happens when you reduce your immune system, when you weaken your immune system and you actually have bacteria in your system that are causing your problems. As you can imagine, you then make way for that bacteria to proliferate even more, right? So they were having a heyday in my body. They were like, oh, this is amazing. She's making the conditions perfect for us. Let's go. This is great. Meanwhile, I was extremely sick and, not getting answers, just taking pills. And then with prednisone, you end up taking pills for pills because it's causing things like acid reflux, never mind weight gain and insomnia, which I wasn't choosing to treat because I didn't want to be taking sleeping pills. I had a new baby at home. And plus I wouldn't want to do that anyway. But so here I am taking pills for pills and nobody's giving me answers. Okay. So later find out, okay, it's this Lyme disease, yada, yada. I'm skipping a lot of details here to shorten the video because I have a very specific point I want to make. So here I am then being treated for Lyme disease, right? And I'm having to pay out of pocket to specialists because most doctors, it turns out, are not trained on how to treat Lyme disease. There are two thoughts to it. There are two different schools of thought about how to best treat Lyme. The main one that you see is, oh, we just give you 2 weeks of doxycycline and it'll be fine. Well, that's not really the case. It goes a lot deeper than that. And I was on actually antibiotics for years. Anyway, before I healed it at the root cause. That's a whole other thing too. My point is like, all my doctors, they're still like specialists or no, like Lyme specialists, they're all talking about how, it's incurable, that you'll always have Lyme. In fact, the first specialist I went to in LA, my very first appointment, and I had sent her so much information beforehand. So she was aware of all my symptoms when it started, all the things before she said this to me. And I go to her office, and one of the first things she says to me is, "You would be better off with AIDS." I was like, "Excuse me? Like, come again? What are you talking about?" Well, it's because there's so much controversy around the treatment of it. It can vary so widely in how it shows up in different people. It responds differently to different treatment depending on who you are. Like, there's so much variables with it. There are so many variables. So I get what she was saying, but it wasn't the best delivery. I gotta say, it wasn't the best delivery. Doctors, don't do that. But at any rate, everybody's telling me that it's incurable. Well, the way I eventually shifted out of that, and believe me, it's a long story. I go actually into it on my old YouTube channel, which is called Heal Into Balance. You can check out the episode around, it's called something with pericarditis. You can go look it up if you'd like. And then I give you more details about how I healed from it. But ultimately, a big turning point was when in late August of maybe 2015, I had to take a break from antibiotics because I had other issues being caused by the antibiotics. I had to switch medications temporarily, I thought, and so I had to come off of them. Well, this was the first time when I came off of them that I didn't start immediately having chest pain, because usually if I came off the antibiotics, I would immediately start having chest pain again, which was like another flare of the pericarditis. This time I didn't, and I was like, whoa, okay. So, and that year leading up to this, I had started working with a homeopath. I was taking a homeopathic remedy. I had started meditating because of a group that she created with some other women, where we were taking one small step. My one small step that I chose to incorporate into my life was meditation. So I had a lot of things shifting, and I was really digging deeper and connecting a lot of dots about myself, why my life was the way it was, like getting more real with myself about what my illness had done for me in my life, like how it had made me look deeper into my happiness and my stress levels, and it made me really shift and change my life. So all of this is happening leading up to this, okay? It didn't just come from realizing I wasn't having chest pain. There were so many things cascading to that point to get me where I'm going next, which is I started thinking about it, and I'm like, okay, what makes me sick? Is it what my doctors say that I have? Is it, the diagnoses that I've gotten? Or is it how I'm feeling? Is it the fact that I can do anything I want now? I'm working here as a nurse, working 12 plus hours a day. I'm not getting chest pain. I even just went off my antibiotic, and I'm actually still feeling really good. So like, what makes me sick? Is it what I've been told? Is it my experience up till now? Or is it this moment and how I'm feeling now? I made the choice in that moment to, a butterfly was just flying by. It's flying, fluttering all around my window. Anyway, I made a choice in that moment to say that I was healthy, like that my present moment, feeling good, being able to do whatever I wanted, which also at that time, did I start hiking yet? Not yet, but I did the next year. Anyway, but I was just like, I'm here, I'm working these full shifts. In my off days, I'm taking care of my young son full time. I'm running the entire house because at this point I had gotten a divorce. I was on my own. And, that was a changing point. That was a changing point. And from then on also, I started just like, okay, it's my well-being. It's going to be based on what I say and how I feel. So like, I'm cured. I just started calling myself cured to myself. Outside, I stopped talking about it. I stopped mentioning Lyme disease to anyone. Because in this time I was also meeting new people, hanging out with new people. if I mentioned it at all, I always said it in a past tense and very briefly. I didn't drag on. I wasn't trying to live in that reality anymore. And mind you, up to this point, I've been taking loads and loads of pills. In fact, I had this huge Tupperware. It was like one of those flat ones. So it was like this tall, like, you can't see my arms, but it was big, that I would keep slid under my bed. That's where I stored it. That had all my pills, all my supplements. I had to have everything scheduled out because I had pills, you know, before breakfast, at breakfast, in between breakfast and lunch, with lunch, at dinner, before bed. I mean, it was insane, the life I was living up until this point when I had this realization. So you can imagine, like, it wasn't it wasn't in my face. It wasn't that I hadn't been living that just right before stopping taking those antibiotics. It's not like I'm saying you can change this even if you have all those things going on. Even if you're having to take the medications and do all the things and go to the doctors, you can still choose to stop being a victim and stop talking about your illness so much. I know a lot of us, one reason why we end up talking to people about it, I think, is because the healthcare system doesn't let you talk about it. You go in, you have like a 2-minute appointment with your doctor. For me, I was paying out of pocket, so I'd get like an hour at a time, which I was paying like $600 to $700 for out of pocket for my specialist. But, you know, so I had time then. So that was nice. But like, I would end up talking about it because I felt like I didn't have like an outlet. Like nobody was listening to what I was experiencing. And I think also when you're going through that and you have like an invisible condition, which I'll talk more about in future videos, when you have an invisible condition, it can be really hard to move through life normally because like you're expected to just be able to do everything that everybody else is doing. And, you know, it's on me what I put myself through during the time when I was really sick, recovering from surgery, because like, I mean, it pushed me into wanting to help people more and pushed me into the career of nursing. So while I'm going through all this and trying to find answers and taking care of my son, I was in nursing school. And then in the time I'm talking about right now, where I shifted out of thinking it was incurable and started thinking of myself as cured, I was a nurse in the hospital. Okay. So, yeah. And I was just expected to do everything that everybody else was doing, which I mean, I put myself in that. So that's on me. But still, like, you feel like you have to just keep up with everybody else, even though you feel like crap or you're really tired all the time. You have whatever going on that you have going on, maybe pain, maybe mental illness. You know, that's an invisible illness as well. So anyway, at this point, I was just like, okay, I'm cured. Like, I'm not letting the past define me. Like, I'm feeling good right now. I'm sticking with this. And I went off of all the medications, all the supplements, which whatever. I mean, you can look at that a bunch of different ways, but I was so sick of gagging on pills all the time. I was just like, it was making me gag. In fact, I tried to keep taking supplements and they started making me gag. It was just, I feel like I was just over it all, the whole thing of it. So I noticed humongous shifts after that. And I know the homeopathy also, like one of my homeopath's goals is to get people off all the medications, you know, where they're not on, like, I think when I started seeing her, I might have been on 10 medications or 15 medications. I forget now. Luckily I forget. It's not something I really want to remember anymore. But, that was one of her goals. So believe me, the homeopathy was like really, a big part of this process for me in even being able to come off the medication and feel good. So my body was healing itself with the help of homeopathy, and everything shifted. Everything shifted. I never had a flare after that. I never had recurring heart pain after that. And then later on, I found holographic kinetics. So I actually took pericarditis to a session eventually, not even right away, if you can imagine, because it wasn't affecting me anymore currently. But I took it to a session. I ended up finding the root cause in a past life. There were heart issues that I had in a past life that I was basically carrying through, that had gotten locked in at the spirit level. So even though in this life, the physical cause was Lyme disease, like, okay, but the root cause was being carried with me through time, which means that if I hadn't cleared that, guess what? I could come back in a future life and repeat that same thing. Something with my heart going wrong, you know? really happy to be free of that now. But that's one example where start basing what you're thinking about your health on how you're feeling, and not just on what your doctors are telling you, and not even just on what the past is that you experienced. Like, it doesn't matter if you've been in the hospital, it doesn't matter that you've been taking a bunch of pills. Like, if you feel good right now, that's your reality. That is your reality. Another thing, and this is a big one too. So like, I guess my biggest message with that is be careful what you believe. Be careful what you lock into. If you think something is incurable, guess what? Your spirit can't change that. The universe can't rearrange that. Your God that you talk to is not going to be able to change that. Why? Because you believe that it's incurable. You believe that it's a permanent condition. And I see people all the time talking as though their conditions are permanent, things that I've actually changed. This will be controversial, but a few of the things I've changed are symptoms related to the labels that we call ADHD and autism. I've had symptoms of both of those things come up, and I've shifted those. I've cleared those out of my reality by taking them to holographic kinetic sessions. So I'm telling you, the quantum way of looking at things, the quantum way of realizing that everything has a root cause that our spirit is aware of and can make changes to if we believe it's possible, and if we don't have beliefs locked in that are contrary to it being able to make those changes. So start letting go of the beliefs that you hold so tight to. Start realizing that this reality is different from what you've been taught, and that there are solutions to things that you're experiencing that maybe you've never heard of. That's okay. Release your grip of your problems. Release the grip to your diagnoses and start just being curious about what I'm talking about here. Have a session for yourself if you want to show yourself what is possible. But you can't do it from a place of being a skeptic and thinking that it won't do anything, because that's also a belief that's going to steer your healing, that's going to steer your session, that's going to make it not change anything for you. Another huge one is I stopped believing that anything is contagious. I don't have that belief anymore. I don't have that belief anymore. How does that impact me? Well, I don't catch things from people. I don't think that people can cause things to harm me. I don't believe that if somebody's not feeling well, they're going to make me not feel well. It doesn't exist in my reality. Therefore, that's not what I experience at all. At all. And I'm talking anything. Anything that we label colds, flus, what have yous. No, I don't get them. And I've been around people who aren't feeling well, and guess what? I don't have anything happen to me. And that is what I expect, and that is what I get now. And there was a time where that wasn't the case. There was a time that wasn't the case. And I actually dated someone for a little while who had that view. And I remember like being sick at one point and him just be like, I'm not going to get anything from you. So he already knew. There are people that knew this before I did, right? This isn't new information. This is just generally not known by the masses. The interesting thing is like, I used to hear my sister say all the time, like, oh, every winter I get sick. Another belief. If you really believe that you get sick every winter, every year you get sick, guess what's going to happen? You're going to get sick every year, like clockwork. And that's what I was witnessing. I know other people who think that things are contagious, and they have a really strong belief that if they're around somebody else who's not feeling well, that they're going to get it, and then they're going to be sick for a long time. Guess what happens to them? Without fail, every single time they end up sick, and they end up being sick for a long time. That is the reality they're creating with their own beliefs. It's not the truth. It's not the true reality, okay? It's not the only reality that you can have or they could have. It's the one you're creating with your beliefs. So get really mindful with what you're choosing to believe, because yes, this is a choice. This is a choice. We're taught all kinds of things. Believe me, I went through all the rigorous studies of an undergrad in science, biology, environmental studies, where I was taught all of this stuff, just like some of you were. I then went to nursing school. I was a nurse. Again, contagion is taught, right? I've had to deprogram all of that. Why? Because it's healthier for me. Because I experience a better reality, one where I'm happier, I'm healthier, and I make changes that are positive and that allow me to live my life more fully, more freely. So start questioning your beliefs, because they might be affecting you in bigger ways than you could have imagined before. Maybe even in my last video with talking about beliefs, maybe you couldn't even put it into like relational terms, because like you couldn't think of a belief that maybe you had that was affecting you negatively. Well, now I've given you a few. So get real with yourself. It's time we all take full responsibility for our realities and for what we're creating, because we are creating it. Even my unconscious creation that was coming through time with me from a past life was still my creation. I had things locked in from that time period, emotions, energy in my body, things that were trapped and locked in at the spirit level that I was then carrying through to balance out, but I just kept repeating it. You don't have to keep repeating the same reality and calling it life. You can get radically responsible for your own thoughts, your own beliefs, your actions, words, and deeds, and take the power back to create a different reality than the one that you're having, especially if you're not enjoying it. There are solutions out there to things that you're dealing with. You just have to open your mind and allow for that to be an option for you by believing that it could help. Thanks so much for tuning in today. If this resonated with you, please like and subscribe. That'll help spread the message to other people who need to hear this. And I hope you have a beautiful day.